We're live. Hello, everybody. This is where you say hi, Dr. Nick.
Do you want me to go topless like I did for We Habs or no?
Sure.
No, I better not.
That's what you want to do.
We might get.
Who am I to stop you?
We might get complaints.
All right. Okay. We're starting off live on YouTube. I'm going to hit the record button. We're going to begin recording for our regular podcast, the audio podcast that's going to be put out on all the other platforms. So here we go with episode 349. Welcome to Habs Unfiltered, episode 349. I'm your host, Blaine Pudvey, and I'm joined now by my co-host, Matt Smith.
Good evening.
And Treg, I'm finally wearing a shirt, Wilson.
What's up?
Well, not much, nothing happened here. It's been a quiet day, blah, 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 draft lottery, nothing big.
Basketball?
Basketball, is that a sport?
Oh, I thought it was a basketball draft lottery. Nothing happens in hockey.
No, nothing at all. Well, skipping over all that crap, let's just dive right into it. So the draft lottery happened. The Canadians remain at fifth, and Chicago, who went full tank and cheated, finished first.
They did go full tank, but so did Anaheim. So sometimes it doesn't pay off. Sometimes it doesn't pay off.
Well, I mean, you compare the two teams. Anaheim still kept all its young talented players, where Chicago just traded them away.
Yeah.
Although Montreal does thank them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But you know what? Jumping right into it, you give up a veteran player like Patrick Kane, who again didn't do much when it came in being traded to the Rangers, and then they're stepping away from Jonathan Toews, like to get Bedard, giving up the faces of your franchise. It's going to be kind of a new wave in Chicago. I'm like, a lot of people are going to say that they don't deserve the pick with everything that went on and the scandal and all that kind of stuff, but what's done, I'm not going to say what's done is done, but that's how the NHL looks at it. All right. And it's not like they're going to take the pick away from them. So I understand that there's a lot of people out there right now that are heated, that didn't want to see Chicago get this pick, but it's the system that they have. The pick was never taken from them. And Connor Bedard's going to the Chicago Blackhawks.
That's just the thing, Matt. Maybe that's something the NHL should start looking at for things like this.
That's true. All right, that's true.
Because it does happen in other sports. In other sports like the NFL and Major League Baseball, you lose picks.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. London lost picks in the OHL there because Niagara lost picks in the OHL because of what happened with three of their players.
Right.
So why can't the NHL say
right? Not saying it's the right thing. Right, not saying it's the
thing. I know what you're saying. Like, I get it. I'm just, what I'm stating is the NHL doesn't do that. So Chicago gets the draft pick. There, nothing you can do about it, right? Yep. It's the rules are rule, the way it is. But maybe NHL should start looking at that as saying, hey, listen, you guys screwed the pooch here, right? And you allowed this to happen. You're going to lose the next 2 draft picks,
right?
Or whatever, or the next pick, or whatever. And then maybe teams will be more accountable for their actions.
Right.
Well, especially when you're actually basically convicted of allowing one of your own players to be sexually assaulted and covering it up. Yeah. Like, it's bad enough that the assault happened, but then you went into a major cover-up for several years.
Right.
And it'd be totally different if the assault happened, they didn't know about it, and it came out later, and they're like, holy shit, like, why didn't you tell us?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's not how it happened. It was like they knew, like, well, we're on a Stanley Cup run right now. Let's wait and see what happens after we see where we finish.
Yeah. And I didn't mean the comment to bring up this whole thing all over again, but people are already talking about it, right? So thought I'd at least.
That is the motto of the show.
Yeah. Thought I'd at least put it in there, right? So,
but I mean, I know that's not the rule. I know that's not the way it works. But if there were to be a situation in the NHL when it was warranted to lose picks, this would be one of those times. I mean, if you like Treg said, if you really want to create change, really create change, you punish the teams with draft picks. Owners do not want that to happen. They will jump on board and make whatever changes necessary to avoid that financial loss. Because if they would have lost a draft pick, it would have been this one.
Yeah.
Like, this is massive. Connor Bedard going to Chicago, you may as well just start printing money.
Right.
You lose that pick. It's not so good.
So I'll say
Bedard's going to be the next Alexander Dag.
I'll throw a positive out there for the situation. Luke Richardson.
Yeah.
You know, he's a well-respected coach. He gets a really good young player
who has no one to play with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So,
I mean, sure. I mean, Chicago gets the pick. It's really going to help their rebuild, but
it will.
Who does he have to play with?
It will, and there's going to be guys that are going to want to go there to play with this kid.
Yeah, but who? I mean, as now, unless they go out and start spending money on free agents or start bringing in players like who's Anathusiao or whatever you say his name, is that who he's going to play with? Like
he's a free agent as well.
Yeah. Elizabeth Mullen, who's watching the show right now, she made a good point. Arizona got picks taken away for less.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Look at Beth. Look at our American little friend there with her knowledge of American stuff.
I was trying to keep it under wraps. I didn't want everyone to know it was Beth from Happy Hour.
Oh, I mean, not Beth from Happy Hour, but some other Elizabeth Mullen who lives in.
Well, I mean,
Saskatchewan.
Virginia. Yeah,
Saskatchewan.
I mean, I didn't want to go name dropping, you know.
Yeah.
What? What's wrong? You shouldn't name drop Beth. It's better dropping her on her head.
So right now, we know Bedard's going number one. It's
well, yeah.
We
maybe,
know that we know this is happening. Can we say
could drop
that
to fifth because of his height?
Yeah. Can we say Fantilli's a lock at 2? Fantilli's
I
a
would
lock
say
at
so.
2 to the Ducks.
Yeah.
This is when it gets interesting after that in going to number 3 with Columbus. Like, they could go for Carlson, they go Michkov, they go Smith. Like, this is
I say they go Michkov. Columbus can wait the 3 years.
I think Michkov goes there as well.
And I'm starting to lean the other way and think that it's not going to be an issue him coming over here in 3 years.
I don't think so either.
It just takes one team.
We've seen.
It just takes one team to want him.
Yeah, we've seen other players do it. Maybe not with the same pedigree, I guess, or the hype, but it's doable.
There's a lot of other things going around that file, but no, I do see Columbus as a team that could be interested in a Michkov. They do need a star, and he's been dubbed the Russian Bedard, so maybe they're enticed to go there.
Yeah,
or maybe they go with I don't know, an American, one of the American players.
I could easily see it being Smith, just given the fact that he is such a good playmaker, but he can still put the puck in the net. You put him with a guy like Goudreau or Patrick Laine, chances are they're going to pot a couple extra goals.
I mean, just think about it.
For centers.
Montreal's picking 5th. They're going to get Carlson, Michkov, or Smith.
They should.
End of conversation.
And but this is the thing. If if it goes Bedard, Fantilli, Carlson, Smith, and Michkov's at 5, do the Canadians pick Michkov? Or
I say yes. I was saying no,
right?
But now I'm saying yes because
I want to say yes. They'd make that.
He's the BPA. Could be a franchise changing player.
Absolutely. And
I
I,
don't
and
know.
I, and I think
I-
that there's a lot more people than just you that are starting to change their tune
like
in terms of that pick. I think that if he's available, if he's there at 5, given that the other 4 that I just named are all off the board, I think that's the pick you have to make.
Michkov at 5, if he's there. I have a hard time believing that
Who would you
Canadians
pick?
would pick him.
Not trying to get confrontational, but who would you pick?
Well, I mean, if you're going talent-wise, of course, Michkov, but I honestly believe that the Canadians are going to avoid that altogether. There's too many question marks. There's too many unknowns. He's a bit smaller of a player as well, and you know how they want some
That's
bigger
true.
guys.
That's true.
So there's all these things are going against him.
Yeah.
So who's available at 5?
I have a player in mind. That I think that I'm going to say I'd be okay with it. Obviously, he wouldn't be the best player available at that time, but for me, it was Ryan Leonard. He kind of struck me as a a hardworking winger. He did a lot of good stuff during the U18s, create space for his teammates. Another guy that's going to be going to Boston College. Put up 17 points in 7 games during the U18s, right? So a guy that one day could possibly be one of those top line players that could create space for Suzuki and Caulfield.
I think if Smith's gone, Michkov's available, and they don't want Michkov, they're taking Dvorsky.
Yeah.
Where there's smoke, there's fire, and they're talking. Every insider, actual insider, says Montreal's really high on Dvorsky. If they don't take him, they take the defenseman Reinbacher.
Well, during the World Juniors, when we were there,
Yeah.
I ran into a couple of the scouts, and that they were very high on those 2 players, very high.
But see, that's the issue I have. Like, I don't know. I'd rather take the chance on Michkov.
He seems more
And
of a
if they're going after the defenseman at 5, why didn't they get Nemec last year in the draft instead of Slafkovsky?
right.
Well, do you really want to take a gamble with a top 5 pick in this year's draft? Do you want to gamble that 50-50 chance that he doesn't come over?
I don't think it's a 50-50 chance. I think he's coming over after 3 years. It's just,
Or less.
I did think it was a 50-50 chance. And then the more I see, and more I see people talk, and the more I see young Russians starting to come over, I agree, not as talented as Michkov. The more I think he'll be here within 3 years.
He is a player that the Russian government would kill to keep.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm just saying, like, conspiracy theories aside, right? So I mean, I see the pros and cons. I just think if you don't take Michkov at 5 and you have another, it's just, I don't know. And then all of a sudden he comes to the NHL whenever he gets picked, you just shot yourself in the foot.
And you don't want to see
That's
this guy.
just,
You don't want to see this guy
Yeah.
blossom as a star if you had the opportunity to see him.
Yeah.
And I think they would be silly to pass on him if he's available. But you know what?
however,
I
I
don't
think he goes
he's
at
gonna be
3,
available.
so it doesn't really
Yeah,
matter.
I think he's going to go
I think
3 or
he goes
4.
at 3.
Right? I think he's going to go
But-
3-4.
Whether he goes at 3 or 5, it doesn't, like, if he's passed over by the Canadians, even, I do not see him going past Arizona.
No, he'll
No.
go 6th for sure.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't go 6, he's 8th for sure with Washington.
No, fuck
Washington
yeah.
will scoop
Yeah.
him up in a
Yeah,
heartbeat.
in a heartbeat. Yeah. Yeah.
But
So really, for the Canadians, I don't believe he's in the mix, but I do believe Dvorsky is, Smith is. If Carlson somehow slips, for sure.
Benson maybe, if everyone else is gone.
I still see Dvorsky over him.
I personally, if they're not going to take Michkov, I see Dvorsky as the pick. End of conversation. If Smith, Carlson, and the other two are gone, I mean, Bedard could drop. He's only 5'6", so he could drop down. He's not very tall, folks. I stood right next to him. I'm 5'6", and I don't think he was taller than me. But Blaine, you were there.
Yeah, he's very slight as well.
And I wasn't too happy with his talent at the World Juniors. His goals weren't very highlight reelish to me. I'm just kidding. I'm only saying this because I know we're not getting him.
Yeah, the Habs dodged a bullet on that one.
Dodged a bullet.
Montreal's gonna fucking now trade like pick 5, the Florida pick, and Armia for number 1.
Hoffman, it's Hoffman, Armia, and Gallagher. It's already a done deal.
Yeah, there's something that's definitely going to happen. No, but
well, there's another question. What do you think it would take for Montreal to get that first overall pick?
Oh, Jesus.
Or does Chicago say absolutely
there's no
not?
way.
No.
There's no way.
an act
There's
of
no way.
God.
Yeah, there's no way.
It'd have to be.
Think of it this.
To be the first 2 firsts, Caulfield, just to start the conversation.
Yeah. Well, think of it this way: that when McDavid got drafted, and then this is supposed to be a fella that's just as good, if not better, than McDavid when it comes to a prospect ranking. Boston offered them 3 consecutive first round picks plus, and they never took it. And then they
Didn't even blink.
made those picks, and they were fucking awful, right? But except for DeBrus ended up being okay. But other than that,
They had the 13th, 14th, and 15th picks, and DeBrus just happened to be okay.
yeah.
Out of all those 3 picks,
he was good, but they could have had Kyle Connor. I think it was like Kyle Connor,
that's what
Matt
I mean.
Barzal, and Thomas Chabot with the next 3 picks. So,
but I mean, I want to say good for Richardson. He's going to get a great player. Chicago's going to have to surround him with someone because there's really nobody there. I would like to see Montreal. I wanted them to sneak into at least the bottom 3 because then you're almost guaranteed you know who they're taking.
Are you disappointed though?
But
are you disappointed that
no? It's exactly where I thought they would be. If they would have been 6th or 7th, then I would have been disappointed.
Yeah,
because it does get muddier after 5.
Yeah, I kind of felt kind of a weight off of me when I saw Arizona come out 6. I was just like, thank fuck it's not them, right? So,
well, when I seen Arizona at 6, I was like, oh, Montreal.
Yeah,
might get
that's exactly it. Right?
That's what. And then all of a sudden,
well, they couldn't be 4th.
Card,
they couldn't be 4th.
Shit,
they couldn't be 4th.
Well, I think a big winner in this draft as well, this draft lottery, is Anaheim. They end up with Fantilli, and they have McTavish already. They've got Strome, Zegras. They've got a lot of really good young talent.
Yep.
And adding him to the mix, I mean, their center depth is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, with the Canadians at 5, Treg, you mentioned Ryan Leonard. I would be okay with that pick at 5. I mean, was it Matt? Or I thought you said it. Okay. Man, you guys look so much alike.
I went way off the board.
I'll take my shirt off for the next show.
Yeah. No, but with Leonard, I mean, he's a guy who he's supposedly a passenger on Will Smith's line, but he looks more like the driver. You watch that U18, and he was the player going into the corners, digging pucks out, making plays, doing all the heavy lifting on that line, playing a bit of a power style of almost power forward game.
Yeah,
he's got a little bit of size to him. I think
he can skate like a son of a bitch too.
Exactly.
Yep.
I don't think he would be a bad pick at 5.
No,
I really don't.
No. I know Craig Button during the U18s compared him to like a Travis Konechny.
Yeah, I can see that. Kind of, sort of.
So, and it's not like the guy can't put the puck in the net. He scored 51 goals this year, for the USDP. All right.
Now, what if the Canadians do go off the board and go with Reinbacher? How Will Twitter crash
I think it's too
because
much.
of the Flames?
I think it's too much of a reach. With what's available within the top five, passing on Carlson, Smith, or Michkov, I don't think you do it. Right? I think you bet on the defenseman that you have coming up in your system, and if they keep if they keep that Florida pick, which is now likely looking like an end of the first round pick, and then their next pick will be 37, I believe. Grab a defenseman maybe at the end of the round, possibly use it to get a top rated goalie, etc. But I nothing against Reinbacher. I thought he looked good at the juniors as well. I just think he's too much of a reach with the players available. And like, people have been wrong before. We saw it with Sider. Everyone, when he was picked, everyone's like, what the fuck? And we've seen how good of a defenseman he's turned into. I wouldn't pass on Smith, Michkov, or Carlson.
I think Twitter's going to implode if they pick Dvorsky regardless, because I don't think the problem is a lot of people out there, they don't watch the players. They watch a couple highlights here and there. And they see this one guy dangling, and and it's always a good highlight. But I mean, and like, I guess this goes to guys like Grant, what's his name? The French guy there, Oliver Baudin. The French, he does the Oliver Baudin or whatever his name is.
Yeah. The snake
Bovin? No. And he's just a regular Twitter guy. He's not like anyway.
Okay.
Anyway. They actually go out and they watch games, and they watch like the entire series. They don't just watch the highlights. And I think what a lot of people do is they watch highlights and they go, oh, look at that guy. He looks so awesome in his highlights. And that guy doesn't look awesome in his highlights. Well, that guy's better than that guy. Right. And I don't think they don't scout. And that's the problem. And then they make their choices. So Dvorsky isn't going to be a highlight reel type player. He's a north-south. You know what I mean? He's going to play a good 200-foot game. He's going to get you goals. He's going to get you assists. He's going to play well, but he's not going to be flashy. And people don't like not flashy. So as soon as they see that, they're like, oh, or they look at the World Junior. Oh, well, he only had 4 points.
Right.
I'm not saying that's what Dvorsky had. I don't remember what points he had, but you know what I mean?
It's more than a point per game.
Yeah, but I saw him
playing
in
a shutdown role.
Yeah, I saw him play against the Finns, and I thought he played well.
Well, we watched him in the World Juniors in Halifax and Moncton, and he looked excellent there. He was playing a two-way game. He was playing the shutdown role. He was their top center. He was producing offensively. He actually helped Slovakia nearly knock off the Canadians, if not for Bedard. Then in the U18s, all of a sudden he's got all kinds of points. Well, that's because he's playing against his peers at this point.
Right.
And he's a young,
but he's used to play. He's played for AIK, which is the Swedish men's league, right? So he's used to playing. Right. He's used to playing against the men.
But that's just it too. He's playing in the Swedish men's league, and he's not raking up all these points because he's 17. And people are like, "Oh, well, this guy's no good. He only got 13 points, 30 games."
But if you watch him play, several games, you notice things. He's an excellent skater. He's an unbelievably good skater. He's very strong on his feet. He's already 6'1", 205. He's already got NHL size. He's already got NHL strength, and it's only going to get stronger. His skating's excellent. His defensive acumen is, I would say, elite for this draft class.
Right.
Compared to his draft class. I look at him and I see a little bit of what Taze was going into his draft year.
Right.
He's someone he's not going to be a guy that puts up a ton of points, but he's going to impact the game at every level outside of that. He'll shut down other players. He'll be able to put up 50, 60 points and shut down their top centers.
I just don't know what his ceiling. I'm not sure what his ceiling is. Is he a 2C? Is he like a strong 3C? Like
A 1B, perhaps.
I just don't know what his ceiling is. Like
The thing is, though, I was just gonna say Montreal doesn't need a 56 two-way center, 50 point, 60 point. They need an 80 to 90 to 100 point scorer.
Exactly.
So this is why if they pick Dvorsky, people are going to be upset about it, especially if Mitchkov's available. And this is why I'm leaning more to Mitchkov, is because they already have a 50 to 60 point center in Suzuki. Well, 60 to 70, right?
Yeah.
They don't need another one. They need a star to elite player. That's what they need. They need to draft one. Slafkovsky. I don't think Slafkovsky is a bad draft. I think he's going to become a great player, but he's not going to be an elite player. He's not going to be a 50 goal, 80 point guy. He's going to be a 25, maybe 30 goal, 60 point guy, right?
Right.
Caulfield, 50 goals, 70 point guy, because he's not going to get a lot of assists. Suzuki, maybe 80 points, maybe, right? So Doc, if he really turns around, could be a 70 point guy.
Right.
But that's just it. You don't have that. This guy's going to steal a game for you. This guy's going to, get you the 80, 90, maybe 100 points. Offense is going up in the NHL, and Montreal's not going up with it.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. So fans are just tired of getting, but he's a great two-way forward. Which you do need, but you can't build your team on great two-way forwards. You need that star player.
If Mitchkov is still not the guy they pick, and I still don't think he is, why not? Why not Oliver Moore
or Gabe Perreault?
Well, Oliver Moore is a center. He plays at a high pace. He generates a ton of points. He probably would have had a lot more points playing in the US and TDP and in the U18s had he been on the top line instead of the second line, because Will Smith was up there. And that line was just eating up all the minutes offensively, power play. So there's a guy who's got some offensive acumen, who plays at a high pace, who has good speed, all things the Canadians want. And he's got the skill level to become an 80 point player, 70 to 80. Is that good enough to offset the loss of Mitchkov?
I mean, I'm just going by fan views. I'm not going by my own personal or whatever, but I think this is why guys like Dvorsky and stuff like that, they sit there and go, oh my God, like we can't pick that guy. Like it's because we need that elite player. We need that player that we know is going to go on the ice and make a difference every time he gets on the ice. And we really, Caulfield sort of, right? I'm not taking away from Caulfield. Caulfield's on the cusp of that, I think.
Caulfield for me is anytime they have a power play, I'm like, we got a chance. I'm starting to get to that level with him. All right.
He is a game breaker.
Yeah. Because
of his scoring acumen.
Yeah. As long as you don't use him as the only attack on the power play.
Right.
Because if you like the first of the season, they used him as the only attack on the power play. So they just played Caulfield and was like, all right, all you other guys can do what you want, because we know you're just going to try to pass it to him.
Right.
He gotta figure out the Ovechkin hidden whatever he does. Yeah. Like Ovechkin just kind of disappears and he literally just stands like this on the circle. And that's it. And everyone's like, he won't score. And then every time he scores, like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. Like, I don't know if Putin got their families like hostage while he's playing the other teams or something, but I don't understand.
So
I don't understand.
So the pick that's now going to be at the end of the draft, more than likely, unless Toronto wins 4 straight.
Well, before we get to that, before we talk about who's there and whatnot, what's available.
Yeah.
Would you rather Florida somehow lost this series and Montreal got the 17th pick, or are you happy to just see the Leafs lose and you don't
I'm-
care?
You know what, I picked Tampa to win the first round. But now that I look at it, it might actually be better for the organization that they get swept in round 2, because there was so much hype after they won that series, everyone jumping around and fucking Nathan Phillips Square, and they're like, oh, we want Florida and everything, and they got what they wanted, and it hasn't worked out for them yet. But I think that for the Toronto franchise, losing in 4 games in the second round is probably gonna be the best thing for them, because their big guys haven't come to play yet. Mainly Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares. None of them have a goal 3 games in, and
1 point between all 4 of them.
And
1 point.
this is kind of like time to shake up the organization a little bit, not just with the players on the ice, but with the guys making the decisions in the press box.
Well, that overtime goal in Game 3 is the epitome of what we've been saying about the Leafs for years.
Yeah.
Extremely talented,
Absolutely.
soft as melted butter.
Well,
Yep.
it was the guy coming around the net, and he's like, well, I'm not going to play him, but I'm just going to stand here and watch him. That's all they did. And he just swung it around and scored. Mind you, Samsonov got injured, so they had to go with their third string goalie.
Yep.
I don't know what's going on with Murray, but oh, go ahead, Matt.
No, I was just gonna say, I've lived in Ontario since 2007, and I've made so many friends over the years that are Leafs fans, and a lot of them are saying the same thing as I am. The best thing for the organization would be them to lose in a dramatic fashion, so changes can be made at the front office.
But that should have happened last year, or the year
It should have.
before,
It should have.
or the year before that.
It should have. But
Right?
this
Like-
year you get out of the first round, which was you beat up on a honestly, it was a beat down Tampa team. They just did not have it. Their stars didn't come to play. They were playing injured, etc. And I'm not making excuses for them, but they didn't have it. They didn't have it this time. And then Toronto comes into the second round against a team that just knocked off the best team in the league, that put up historic numbers this year, and all of a sudden you're in a 3-0 hole. Like this is when people get fired.
Well, we've said this on the show many times. Blaine said it. I've said it. Toronto needs at least an Eastern Conference final or a Stanley Cup final for everyone to keep their job.
Yeah.
I would say a Stanley Cup final.
Right.
I thought the deadline moves by Toronto were good.
Yeah.
I thought they kind of went out and got what they sort of needed. But the problem goes back to the fact that they're paying 3 people over $10 million and they can't plug the hole. They need grit and strength in the top 6, not the bottom 6.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They need it in the top 6, and that's where they're losing. However, to go to your question, Blaine, I wanted the 17th pick. The 17th pick to me is worth more than the later picks. I think it would be easier to trade that pick if you wanted to trade it because it's in the top 20. Once you get to the 29th, which is where it's going to be
Likely,
I think starting, right?
28,
Starting,
29, yeah.
29th, 32. Then you're looking at basically a second round pick. So teams are going to be like, well, that's basically just a second round pick. It's not really worth as much to us as it was.
With the Canadians picking at 37, and let's say they dropped Florida win. Let's say Florida somehow pulls out a victory in round 2. Now that they're up 3-0 in the series,
Right.
There's a possibility they win. So let's say they win.
so you have 29-37.
So let's say 29. They're at 29. Falling from 17 to 29 could be seen as a positive. I mean, I agree with you. I'd rather 17 for all the reasons you stated, but there could be a silver line into the 29 because then the Canadians will be forced to look at drafting a goaltender, or they'll be able to pick a right-handed D-man like a Drasevich,
Right.
instead of trying to reach at 5 for Reinbacher.
I don't think they reach at 5 for Reinbacher, but if they had 17,
you'd pick
If they had 17, there's a chance Reinbacher could have been there.
True.
true,
And that's why I would rather
True.
the 17.
true.
So you have 17s, or if you want to trade for, say, PLD, 17th pick looks a lot better than the 29th pick to Winnipeg,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Or anyone else you want to trade it, or you sit there and go, hey, we got a chance to get a really good right-handed defenseman in the top 20. Right. Whether it's Reinbacher or somebody else, right? But now you're looking at, I still think you're going to get a good draft. I think Grant said not too long ago that the difference between 17 and 29 really isn't that deep.
No,
Right.
it doesn't fall off.
So you're like, so if you're whoever you're picking at 17 could easily be picked at 29. Right. That's how close the talent is in that area. But if you go by the percentages of first round picks that become stars or get games in the NHL, there's a big drop off from 17 to above 25.
Right.
A 10% drop off. So you play a lot. I don't think Montreal is planning on keeping their second pick in the first round anyway. I'm not saying they're going to trade it for anyone, but like if you're the other team, you're like, well, I had a 17th pick. Now it's 29, 30, 31, 32. What else you got? You know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
I mean, if you're trying to find a silver lining, that's what I did there. I mean, there's a possibility there's a silver lining, but again, 17 is the better pick. And when you're looking at, the Canadians actually finding a silver lining, even though they didn't move up to get to 1, staying at 5 is a big deal.
Yes.
It's massive for the Canadians to not drop down to 6 or 7, because the odds were that they would. I mean, 44% chance that they were supposed to go to 6, and then almost 15% chance that they go to 7, which is the put together, that's 58%, 59%.
Yeah.
That's a lot. But
And for me, like when you start talking about 6, 7, that's when names come in from everywhere. When you bring in the Bensons, Leonards, Dvorskys, Reinbacher, those kind of guys,
Morse.
right? All those guys come into that conversation, as opposed to a top 5 that I think is set, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, like I say, I think Montreal needs an elite player. And if they're going to get one, this is the draft to get it. And this is why, to reiterate, this is why you don't pass up on Michkov if he's there.
Yeah, I'd say go for the BPA, which is going to be one of those top 5 guys. And I've got a poll out right now on Twitter, not including Fantilli and Bedard, obviously. But I would say Carlson, Michkov, and Smith. You pick one of those 3. If it happens that you can't do something like, a la Kirby Doc like you did last year, and flip that pick, you keep it. You either go for another BPA or you pick for need. And then perhaps with, say, that pick 37, depending on who's available, say if a guy like Harabel's available or something like that, you go and you fill another organizational need. And you take the top rated, you take one of the top rated goalies in the draft.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that Moosehead goalie in this year's draft?
No.
Is he drafted already?
Well, he is. He wasn't drafted last year, so he's available. I don't know. I mean, you got Carlson, Michkov, Smith. I think the ideal. Well, I do believe that Carlson's going to go 3. So I don't know. I think the hope is that Smith is the one. I think that would be the ideal.
I think that that's the guy you're not but the Canadians would not pass on.
I think Smith will be there at 5, and that's who I think they take.
Right.
With his history with Kent Hughes, I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
That, and he's got Jack Hughes' level of production at the level he's at right now, at the US NTDP and the U18.
Yeah. 127 points.
It's
in
up there.
60
Yeah,
games.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, a year in Boston. I mean, these are guys that are not going to be coming right away to the NHL.
And you got to
anyway.
think these guys are a lot of these guys are going together. I think Leonard's going there. Moore, I believe, is going there. I think Gabe Perreault might be going there, and Smith's going.
So, well, his whole line. So when Will was on the show, I mentioned that. So it's him, Leonard, and Perreault. Those three are all going to Boston College as a line.
Yeah, which is
Montreal's going to draft all three of them. They're going to make trades, and they're going to have the 5th, 6th, and 7th pick.
Yeah, you imagine.
Ideal.
Yeah.
No, but I think that would be the best outcome for the Canadians at 5. Is to get a player like that.
Moore's going to University of Minnesota. Just looked it up.
Now, and keep in mind, like I said, these guys are all going to be going back to college or going back to Europe or whatever it may be. Fantilli, Carlson, Smith, all of those guys are going to be going back.
Yeah, there's only 2 guys who are making
Benson.
the NHL. There's only 2 guys making the NHL this year.
Bedard.
They're locks. Bedard and Fantilli are the only 2 locks.
Well, Fantilli could go back to college.
Can't see it. Can't see it. You win the Hobie Baker Award, and you're already going to play the double HF Worlds with Team Canada. I think you're going.
Probably, but he could.
He could. Yeah.
So for the Michkov pick, I mean, the whole argument is that it's going to take 2 to 3 years. Well, all these guys are going to take 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So you're not that much further ahead.
Yep. I agree.
Time-wise.
You're still looking at 2 to 3 years for any player you're picking besides Bedard. Maybe Fantilli, and Fantilli might go earlier.
Yeah.
But if you look at Montreal, so say, and I'm just going to stick with it, say you take Michkov or it's Will Smith, either or, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
They're going to come into the league the same time Lane Hutson's going to come into the league. The same time Joshua Waugh and all those guys are going to be playing in Laval, right? They're going to start coming into the league. So your team, your new Caulfield and Suzuki are now the veterans, right? And then you have this new core that's going to come in. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Waugh and all these guys are going to be superstar hockey players. Let's see what they do in Laval. However,
but that prospect wave.
Timeline wise, that's prospect waves. What's going to start coming in, and then you have Riley Kidney, another guy that could start coming. Owen Beck, who'll probably maybe already kind of in and out of Montreal by that time, but all these guys, Massar and all these guys are going to start weeding their way into the team. Brendan Gallagher will be on LTIR for the rest of his career, just to
Yeah, probably. Honestly, that is a possible outcome.
So I mean,
but
Carey Price will be a legend with the Arizona Coyotes by then.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will. So before we leave, we'll just shut her down here. It's getting late. People are getting tired of us. The show's running on, but before we go, just one little fun thing. Is the draft rigged? I mean, Kevin Weeks announced the Columbus pick before the card was even shown. And I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that this draft, the actual draft lottery happened before, and he had the show notes in front of him, already knowing who's going to win. I'm sure it had nothing to do with that, but it's clearly rigged.
I rewound it and I was like, did I miss something there? And I was like,
No, he said it.
He said it. I thought he did a fantastic job, though. He did a really good job hosting.
Oh my God, yeah. Kevin was amazing.
Yeah.
No, it's not rigged.
Other than demonstrating it was rigged. The draft is as rigged as officiating against the Leafs. Fucking rigged.
0-9 with Wes McCauley. And did you know that Wes McCauley and Keefe were involved in the Sheldon Kennedy thing, and they hate each other? And what's his name is married to one of their sisters or something.
I will say this about McCauley. I know, the fact that this guy's family received death threats. That's that's fucked. That's a whole other level of fucked. Like that should
Let's
never get to that kind of
let's
never
ignore
get to
that in the
kind of
regular
level.
season. Toronto was 5-0-1 when
That's
Wes
right.
McCauley was referee of their games.
That's right.
Maybe you should start looking at the fact that Mitch Marner, Matthews, Tavares, and Nylander have one fucking point between the four of them in this series. Let's look at that. Maybe that's why you're down 3-0. Maybe it has
That's
nothing to do with
officiating.
Wes McCauley at all.
Right.
All officiating.
Oh,
It's
Bunting
rigged.
would have got 3-game suspension. Bunting also looks like he gets shot every time someone skates by him. And then when there's no call, he decides to berate the referee in front of everybody in the stadium.
Right.
And makes a big show about it.
Yeah.
This is why no one likes Bunting.
So essentially, it's not rigged. I mean, even when they had the remember during during COVID when they did the draft lottery,
balls?
with the Rangers with the balls, and you got to watch it, people still said it was rigged.
It was weighted. It was a weighted ball.
Yeah, because that one ball for the Leafs just took.
Remember
off to
when
the left.
Toronto's kind of went down and then popped right back up again, and then
They're weighted.
I don't know why they don't do that again. Used to like watching the ball thing. I used to like watching them with the balls.
Just right there in your face.
Yeah.
The balls are right in your face. They're bouncing. And then one descends.
And you feel like I was back home in Sudbury watching bingo.
Okay, let's wrap
Old
this
lady.
up. let's wrap this up. There's too much ball.
We'll wrap it up. All right. So at the end of the day, the Canadians now hold 5. Bedard is getting sent to the Windy City, which blows. And yeah, I know dad jokes galore. So is there any final thoughts, Matt?
Happy we stay in the top 5. That's it.
Trey?
This management sucks. The rebuild is destroyed. Might as well not even watch any more games from now on. I can't believe goaltenders steal games. What the hell is this management doing? They should have traded everyone. Primo should have played every game. End of rant. We would have had Bedard. Now we're just mediocre. We're going to be mediocre for the next 40 years.
Okay.
Or
See
something
it.
to
I
that.
totally see
Something
it.
to that. Something to that
Something
effect
to that
by
effect.
some guy on Twitter who's not yet 20.
Valid. Okay. Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. For me though, I want to. It's clearly not a rigged system because if it was, wouldn't you think Arizona would have won?
Or
And
Toronto.
they didn't. Or yeah. So really the final thought for me is I just want to thank everybody who's tuned in, who's kept supporting us, kept sending us their comments, their emails, comments on YouTube. Thanks, Beth. And everybody else who's listening. You guys help make us a little bit better, which is saying a lot because we all suck so bad, especially that Air Force type guy. Because the Air Force sucks. But for everybody who's watching and listening, I want to thank you guys for continuing to support us. I want to thank you for listening. And remember, if you're talking about it, so are we. And that's it for the recording of the show. And we're still live. I want to say thank you to everybody who stayed with us on the live. Treg, did you want to show off your muscles at all or take off your shirt?
Nah, I don't have
No.
it. You can see it on my Twitter profile. I don't need to take my shirt off.
Here.
And I look
Matt?
better in that picture because I'm kind of fat now.
Not this time.
No, you don't want to do it?
Next time.
Matt and I will have a shirt off contest someday. Do
In
a
Nashville.
pull up.
Still
Do a
working.
pull-up.
Still working.
Do a pull up. Shirt off.
We'll
The
do
fans
it in
want it.
Nashville.
We'll do it.
Yeah.
Sounds like a draft day thing.
Yeah.
All right.